Vicki, thank you for having this conversation with me again, letting me vent.
Listen,
I
thank you
usually
for having
don't
me.
do that.
It's always fun to talk about sex, isn't
It
it?
is fun to talk. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Second Act TV. I want to welcome back Vicki Larson, the award-winning journalist and author of Not Too Old for That: How Women Are Changing the Story of Aging. Vicki, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Silky. Thank you so much for having me on again. Always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure having you. You really speak to, well, topics for our demographic that affect us at this time in life. One of which, a huge question that does not go away, and you've written tons of articles on it, is do women lose their libido as they age? Boy, is that a contentious question. And quite frankly, I think our discussion is going to be met with a lot of contentious comments, perhaps because of what we think is one of the main reasons behind it. So let's just dive right into it. Vicki, why have you made this such a big part of what you do, what you write about?
Well, because there is that common assumption, or at least that narrative, that
Mhm.
women past a certain age, they just lose interest in
Yeah.
sex.
Mhm.
And to be honest and true, some women do. However, it's much more nuanced than that. One of the things, because of the narratives of older women, losing their interest in desire and sex, is because we keep getting messages from media and people that we should.
Yeah.
And when women in their 60s and older express their sexuality and sensuality, they're
Mhm.
shamed. They're
Right.
shamed for it. I mean, famously Madonna, when she posted some, as Madonna has done all her life,
Mhm.
some
Mhm.
pictures of her in lingerie and Instagram, and like this judgment.
Mhm.
It's so when women are faced with the judgment from society, don't be sexual, you're too old for that. But
Mhm.
then why aren't you having why did you lose your libido
Yeah.
at the same age?
Right.
What are the messages that we're telling women? So of course
Right.
we internalize that, gee, I guess maybe I shouldn't be
Right.
sexual past a certain age, because when I do that, people say, oh, grandma, cover it up.
Right.
Another one, which blows a lot of people away, is that women lose after about 2 years together with a partner. Women get bored. They need more novelty to feel erotic desire. That's counter to what we've been told. But then
Yes.
again, we have been told a lot of things. I don't know if you remember the book, The Height Report,
No.
that was very popular in the 70s, where she interviewed 3,000 women to talk about their experience of sex. And so many of the women said, men didn't really know what we're doing. This is how I get off.
Right.
And there was such pushback from men.
Mhm.
And the women are saying, no, we're telling you this turns us on. And the men were like, no, 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 no. And we're
Right.
like, yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Yeah.
women have experienced, let's just put it out there, bad sex. And
Yeah.
so I'm not saying that men are to the blame
Mm-mm.
for women's loss in libido. It's just much more nuanced that all women will lose interest in sex past a
Right.
certain time.
Right. Here's what so hit me in the book when I read this. And we talked about this the last time we had the conversation, I think, as well. But I really, really, really want to just hammer this home because I think it's so important, is that the reason a lot, and not, we don't speak for all women and all men, obviously. However, one of the main reasons that women lose interest in sex is not because they lose their libido, it's because they lose interest in their partner. And that's the hardest thing that, nobody wants to hear that, including men and including women. This is something you just want to bury that. You don't want to talk
Yeah.
about it. You'd rather accept a bad sex life than to even bring that into the conversation. But
Mm.
we're going to bring it in because we're not talking about anybody in particular. But, think about that. And the reason that I say I can identify it so much is because that happened to me. In my 25-year marriage, the last 10 years were sexless.
Mm.
And I said, I do not want sex. I never want to, I don't care if I ever have sex again.
Mm.
And my ex-husband said, oh yeah, she totally lost her libido. She never wanted it. Well, what happened is the minute I got divorced, whoa, it's like divorce is the awakening. you know and that sounds horrible because we don't want to push divorce, but it's so important to understand this, that yes, there may be challenges with hormones. Men have ed and women have vaginal atrophy. All that can be dealt with, but if the desire isn't there, it's not going to happen. You have to want to be with that person.
Well, it's true. And, uh, all the research says that long time relationships, long term,
Mhm.
are hard to maintain. You're going to have to really work hard to get that desire going
Mhm.
for that length of time. And so, yes, what a lot of people find, I mean, there's been a whole bunch of divorce memoirs that came out this year, and also talking about how great and sexually liberating
Liberating.
divorce is at midlife. And I think there was a study that I quote in the book that said women at age 66 were having the best sex ever. And I
Yes.
would say yes, the 60s have been fantastic.
And I want to jump in here again, Vicki, really fast, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand my point here,
Yeah.
because it is not to advocate divorce.
No.
This is something I wasn't anticipating. This is what happened. And I talk a lot about getting my hormones fixed, and oh wow, I learned about vaginal atrophy and all that. But here's the cold hard truth. Had I still been married, I don't think I wouldn't have even looked into fixing my hormones,
Yeah.
because I did not want to be with this man.
No.
I wanted out. There was no desire there. And that's what I think people need to understand. Is this what's happening in your relationship? If it is, there are ways to fix it, but you have to be aware that that is what's likely going on. If there's resentment, if there's, whatever the state of your relationship is, it's
Mhm.
likely that the woman just doesn't want to be with the guy, and the woman keeps getting we keep here's where I think there's a little bit of a sexist flair to this, is that it's easier blamed on the woman. Oh, it's just her
Oh, of
libido.
course.
That's what happens to women, versus what are you doing to what did you do to contribute to this?
It's absolutely true. Look, women are the ones who overwhelmingly buy the self-help books.
Mhm.
And we're the ones who told, oh, sex up your life, buy some lingerie, and make a this and that, and the candles and this and that. So it's always women, it's on you
Mhm.
to spice up your relationship. But given the fact that women are the ones who need novelty,
Mhm.
because they lose interest in sex quicker than men,
Mhm.
their attraction to their partner.
Right.
Why aren't the men doing their part? Because it can't just be lopsided for
Yeah.
the women.
Yeah.
It can't. And also to be able to talk with your partner about, okay, what is happening here? And how are we feeling about each other? What do we need to change
Mhm.
to be able to try to recreate or start a
Mhm.
new path of sex and desire and intimacy? And both have to want it. Both have
Right.
to want it. It can't just be on the woman to sex it all up and spice
No,
it all.
it's not. And I think one thing that men, and we have a huge male audience, if we have 50, I mean, this show was originally intended for women, and that's what I love about this channel, is that we really have a very equal audience to where we can learn from each other. And people who've been following me for a while and have seen you before, that if anything, if anything, I stick up for men on this show. But
Yes.
with this particular topic, it's important for men to understand that, because you do, a lot of men, again, this doesn't go for everybody, you become complacent. You
Yes.
you know, you stop romanticizing, you stop the compliments, well, she should know this, et cetera, et cetera. And then we lose interest, but it's our libido. This is just something that needs to be understood. And again, yes, some women do, and even women don't understand this. Like,
Well,
and I'm pointing at myself. I did think I lost interest in sex, but I didn't, as I found out.
thank you for saying that because yes, it's absolutely true. A lot of women, especially of certain generations, older
Mhm.
generations,
Right,
didn't really get to know their bodies, or
right,
maybe because of religious training, whatever,
right,
sex is shameful, so we were carrying a lot of stuff in our head about what sex is, and so a lot of women don't understand their body, don't really know what
right.
turns them on. So, I mean, I think a couple can learn that together, or a woman can learn that on her own and be able to share that with her partner. And I get back again to when Sure Height interviewed all those women from all around the world, and they were saying, "This is what turns me on."
Mhm.
Men, she's telling you what's turning her on. Do that.
Mhm.
Do it.
What came to mind when you said that just now again, and these kind of conversations, this is more about awareness than, here's what you do.
Right.
But the awareness is when I apply what you just said. If I think about my ex-husband, I had no interest in doing that. When there's someone new, that's
Yeah.
so much more easily done, because you don't have that sexual script that
Mhm.
you've done forever, forever, and ever. You don't have the
Yeah.
resentment. And to me, this is a really difficult, deep topic that men and women are equally responsible for. And maybe they'll solve it, maybe they won't. I'm hesitant, always hesitant to talk about this. I don't know that'll ever change. Well, I can talk about it on this show. Well, with you right now, I'm telling you, some of my deepest secrets, you as in, the hundreds of thousands of people out there. That doesn't mean I'm going to talk about it in the bedroom. This is hard. This is hard. But some people will, maybe it'll be easier for them if they hear us talk like this.
Yeah. And, it is hard when you just have 100% lost interest in your partner.
Right.
And sometimes the partner we want to have children with and raise kids with is not the partner who's going to
Mhm.
carry us through for the rest of our life. I think it was Margaret Mead who said a woman needs 3 husbands. Remember, that's women had to get married back in those days. One
Right.
for youthful sex, because
Mm-hmm.
we had sex outside of marriage, one to raise children with,
Mm-hmm.
and one for companionship later in life. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say companionship and sex later in life, Margaret. Come on, throw in the
Yeah.
sex in there too.
Yeah.
So, and what you find out now, because the largest number of people divorcing now are the so-called gray divorces, people 50 and older
Right.
who have been in
Exactly.
long-term marriages. They raised their kids. Not everyone has kids,
Mm-hmm.
but and now that job is done, and now it's time for something else, whatever that else
Right.
is. And
Right.
again, not advocating for divorce. Some people are really able to stay in long-term marriages and have wonderful sex lives.
The big point that I really want to get across is this: that it's all the woman's fault that you're going to lose your libido. Well, of course she doesn't want to have sex with me. It's her fault, and that simply isn't true.
No.
Maybe in some cases, yeah. Again, we don't speak for everybody, but I mean, this just hit me so strong when I read part of that, in your book.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I mean, what the experts say is that desire ebbs and flows throughout the life
Right.
course. There are
Right.
times when it's really strong. Honestly, when I was a new mom, not so much. I was
Right.
exhausted, but then it
Mm-hmm.
came back again.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and then so, and that is important to know too. Just because there's a little lull doesn't mean no more sex. It's just
Right.
we're going to see flows in our sexuality and desire
Mm-hmm.
all throughout life. And
Yeah.
it's only if you let it go on and on and on and don't talk about it
Mm-hmm.
that it could be problematic. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're
Well,
if
and
you
maybe you really don't want sex. It's okay. I mean, I'm also not saying, oh, you all have to go out and have sex. If you don't have sex, you're not normal. No.
yeah,
That's not what we're saying either. Please
right,
understand that. What the again, the point is that loss of libido doesn't necessarily happen automatically.
right.
The libido might just be sleeping,
Yeah,
but it's not
exactly.
necessarily lost. And I think that is so important to know.
Absolutely, and it's not always the woman's fault.
No, no, it's not. It's not. And again, it's something we can talk about forever. We had a great conversation before. I'll link to that as well. But this comes up over and over again in our comments. The sort of blame is thrown out all the time that it's, oh well, I'd never be with a woman after menopause and well, the fact is, at least, and for a lot of women, that, and I think you said that earlier, you can have the best sex of your life after menopause because so much of the life stresses like kids or getting pregnant and all that are removed. And if your hormones are balanced, you're back in that, when the hormones first pop during puberty. I mean, it can be incredible, and we need to change that story, as as you
Yes,
do, you're committed to in your book.
yes,
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm, sitting here lecturing I'm lecturing to the choir, to the person who brought all this up. Vicki, what didn't I say? Or maybe what did I say that was wrong? What do we need to
No,
leave with our audience on
I
this?
think no, I think so you said it really beautifully. To just point fingers at the women is really wrong.
Mhm.
Uh, so is pointing fingers at the man. I think
Right.
if we want to have a happy, healthy sexual
Mhm.
life with our partner, talking about it, exploring together, not blaming, but trying to
Right.
understand is very
Mhm.
important. And
Right.
also, really, yes, we have to bust that ageist sexist belief that all women will lose their
Mhm.
libido. It's, as you say, it doesn't have to happen. It happens for some, that's okay, but
Mhm.
it's not automatic. And so, just put that to rest,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference between sexual dysfunction as we age and libido. That has to be separated. It's two different things, I think.
Well, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And there are challenges that come as we age with our
Right.
body. There are
Right.
things that happen, but don't confuse a medical thing, something,
Right.
or well, not a medical thing, I'm sorry, a natural thing that
Hmm.
happens
Right.
with the fact that a loss of desire. And also because of that, you can be more creative.
Right, exactly. And we have two great videos on that I recently did, one with Dr. James Simon and one with Joan Price. You might know her.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, Naked at Our Age, talking out loud about senior sex. I'll link to that as well. Vicki, thank you for having this conversation with me again, letting me vent.
Well, Cynthia,
I
thank you for
usually
having
don't
me.
do that.
It's always fun to talk about sex, isn't it?
It is fun to talk about sex. Of course, we will link to all of your information to your book. You have several books. I will have them all here in the show notes. And I look forward to another conversation with you soon on Second Act TV.